Would you like a raise at your job? Do you want to have better friends? Well, I'm guessing that more effective listening is one of the key things that you would need to get there. And in this video, we're going to identify the 6 most common barriers to effective listening so that you can overcome them. Let's get into the details. Hello again, friends. Alex Lyon here, and this channel is here to help you increase your personal impact as a leader so that you can bring out all the best in the people around you. And part of good leadership is great listening. A lot of times, if you're like me, you have these barriers that come in that affect your listening skills in a negative way. So we're going to go through the 6 of the most common barriers, and I'd like to ask you to see yourself in this list. Which ones of these are you most likely to get caught up in? And I would love to hear your comments in that section below at the end of the video. So the first barrier is distractions. This is very common. If you have your phone out on the desk when you're trying to listen, you can very likely be preoccupied by that. If you are distracted by noise or another conversation coming from a different room, that can throw you off. For me, my golden retriever is absolutely gorgeous and beautiful and fun. And so if she's trying to play with me while I'm talking to my wife or my son, then she's going to be a distraction. And so what you have to do is manage these distractions. Turn the phone off and put it completely away so you can't even see it. Close the door, move to a different location, put the dog in the other room for a little while so you can focus and not be distracted. The second most common barrier is preoccupation. It's very related to the first, but in this case, the preoccupation is happening in your mind. So you might be already thinking about something else when you enter the conversation. You might have anxiety about something. You might be thinking about what you're going to do in the future in a little while, and that can preoccupy you. You can also do what we call drift. So the person says one word, for whatever reason that pops out, and then you go off in your mind, you drift off in another direction on whatever that word means to you. That can be a huge distraction as well, a huge preoccupation. So the third most common problem and barrier is listening too much to the details and the facts in a conversation, or if you're listening to some content in a workplace setting. So a lot of times we get focused on the details, and when I try to follow every single move, I get a little bit lost and I lose the big picture. So the solution here is to back up a little bit and listen for the overall big picture and not worry so much about the details. You can always ask follow-up questions later if you miss something, but if you're listening for the overall message, then you're much more likely to tune in and really focus on what the person is saying. Another barrier to effective listening is the topic. Maybe this topic is just boring to you. Maybe you don't care about it. Maybe it's something that you actively do not like, and that is going to be very difficult. The solution here is to develop a curiosity and just make your mind up that you're going to take an interest in what the other person is saying. There's a comedian, Jerry Seinfeld. I quote him often in my videos because I think he's really funny. He also has a lot of insight, but he says that if you're talking to someone who's completely boring and very ordinary, you can still find something interesting in the most ordinary person if you just take an interest in what they're saying. So curiosity and taking an interest is a choice, and that's one of the things that I will recommend to you if you're not really into the topic that the person is talking about. The next big barrier to effective listening is called the rebuttal tendency. A lot of times, instead of listening carefully, we're figuring out what we're going to say next and we're getting ready to jump in. And if we're thinking about what we're going to say next, and maybe we want to debate them or have a little comeback, then we're not really going to focus very much on what they're saying. So don't worry so much about what you're going to say next. You can figure that out, and there can be a pause in the conversation. That's not a bad thing. That's often a good thing. You don't want to worry about that. Just focus on them and worry about your response for later. And the final barrier to effective listening is, unfortunately, sometimes it's the speaker. Sometimes the speaker, him or herself, is boring or uninteresting, or they're doing something distracting that's like throwing you off. They say a lot. Maybe they're a soft talker. Maybe you just can't get over something about them. And what I like to do in this situation is try not to be too judgmental of the speaker, and I try to have a little bit of compassion for their person as a human being and not worry about how they're performing as a communicator, but just tune into who they are as a person and care a little bit more about them. And that helps me become a better listener in the moment and get over that barrier. So here's a list of barriers, and I'm wondering where you see yourself in this list. Which one or more of these are you most likely to be distracted by or put off by? Which of these are your biggest barriers? I would like to hear that comment in that section below, and I look forward to reading those. So thanks, God bless, and I will see you in the next video. This list of barriers is going to affect you and make you, and part of good leadership